Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram, and we've got a look at the action in today's session, Thursday, November 14th. And joining me to break it all down is my colleague, Ken Shreve. Ken, what do you have for us today?
Yeah, selling might have picked up the pace a little bit at around 3 p.m. Eastern. That's when Fed Chairman Jerome Powell started talking in a speech. But yeah, we'll take a look at three stocks today. A Brazilian fintech called New Holdings, ticker NU. Also want to take a look at Atlassian, enterprise software leader TEAM, and finally Sherwin-Williams, a new member in the Dow, along with NVIDIA, ticker for Sherwin-Williams is SHW.
Okay, well, we'll take a look at those three stocks. But first, let's analyze the major indexes. I want to kick things off, Ken, with a look at the Russell 2000 because that led on the downside today, finishing down about 1.3% and closing below that gap up day low that we saw last Wednesday on the heels of the election. We know that small caps are more volatile, but what's going on here?
Well, they tend to move, with interest rates. What was interesting is that the 10-year Treasury yield was lower for most of the session, and then it paired losses, ended basically flat, on the day. So the move really didn't, small caps lagged, even though interest rates ended mostly unchanged on the day. So obviously a big gap up for the Russell 2000, crosses the 240 level. Not doesn't look like a whole lot of institutional selling behind the recent decline here. As you can see, it's just a test of the 10-day moving average, but small caps definitely lagged today. Growth stocks under a lot of selling pressure underneath the surface today. That probably weighed on the Russell 2000 as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's take a look at the tech heavy Nasdaq and see how that performed today. Down about 0.6%. We had been saying how impressive it was, Ken, to see this tight, almost quiet trading action on the index level. We finally did get a little motion downward from that tight trading range. But should investors be concerned at this point, or what should we be thinking here?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got a big economic report tomorrow morning, October retail sales. That could move the bond market one way or another. So at this point, you can see a big move for the Nasdaq in recent days, and this hasn't even come down to the 19,000 level here. Volume was very heavy in the Nasdaq yesterday. Really didn't give up much ground, so we weren't forced to count a distribution day for the Nasdaq yesterday, so that was a good sign. And volume, as you can see, above average today, but below yesterday's level. So even though maybe it felt like distribution or institutional selling on the Nasdaq today, lower volume did soften the blow a little bit. Still on an uptrend here. Maybe it's going to come down and test these short-term moving averages. We'll see if it does and if it eventually can hold support.
Exactly. So yeah, on the downside, we're going to be looking at 19,000, that 10-day line and the 21-day line and the gap up day low for this index as well. Let's
Yeah,
take a look at
breadth
the
was.
S&P
I was just going to
500.
say
Oh, go
breadth
ahead.
was
Sure.
negative on the Nasdaq today, about 2 to 1, 2 to 1 negative, and we've seen breadth in recent days a little bit shaky with decliners kind of having the upper hand over advancers. But one down day, we're not going to lose a lot of sleep. Like I said, the selling in growth stocks has been over the past few days. Even though the indexes haven't moved a whole lot, we have seen growth stocks come under some selling pressure here. So that's something to monitor as well.
hmm Okay. Thoughts on the S&P, Ken?
Well, volume it looks like it's going to be eventually be pretty close to what we saw yesterday. It's showing pretty light right now, but volume, at least on the homepage of investors.com, looks like it's going to be very close, and it could be even a little higher than what we saw yesterday. So could see a distribution day added to the account for the S&P 500, but too early to tell. We'll need to get that final volume figure. But this index, just like the Nasdaq, holding above short-term support levels. Kind of fell below the low from earlier this week, and maybe that is going to bring a test of these short-term moving averages into play. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Again, I think tomorrow that retail sales data
Mm.
is going to be an important report for the market to consider.
Okay. And then last but not least, here's a look at the Dow 44,000. got above it and now coming back in a little bit, but still well above where we were before last Wednesday.
Yeah, pretty orderly decline here for the Dow. You can see downside volume of the last two sessions on Tuesday and Thursday. Pretty light, lower than some up days that we've seen recently. So the Dow still looks fine here. It remains to be seen if the market's going to kind of move away from growth stocks and maybe move into some of these liquid blue chip names. It's a possibility, but we'll have to just wait and see how things shake out here.
Okay. And we do want to take a look at one sector ETF before we move on to the three stocks, and that is XLV. It's something that we've seen the relative strength line turn into relative weakness, quite frankly, Ken, since early September. And that has just continued over the last week plus.
Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking about investing in the healthcare sector, the medical sector, even biotech, I was talking with my colleague Dave Chung earlier, and just
Yeah.
looking at IBB, the biotech ETF has come under a lot of selling pressure. That's a pretty sharp 4-day decline here. That's XBI. There's also IBB, which looks very similar. So, whatever area of healthcare that you're looking at, certainly XLV is in quite a downtrend here. Biotechs look pretty tough. There was some news late today that broke, and maybe not a big surprise, that President-elect Trump is likely to nominate Robert Kennedy to the Department of Health and Human Services. So maybe that's what caused the selling in biotech and healthcare today. So we'll just have to see how that plays out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now let's turn our attention to ticker NU, a wild earnings reaction today. We've seen a lot of wild earnings reactions, Ken, whether it's explosive moves or strong moves that fade or weakness that looks pretty extreme, and even some upside reversals, which was the case here for this Brazilian bank ticker NU, finishing down about 2.9% on the day. I believe at one point, Ken, the stock was down more than 10% intraday.
Yeah, this is a good example of what when buyers come in and offer support at a key moving average like the 50-day moving average. That's what it looks like. So on the surface, a 3% decline in very heavy volume doesn't look very good, but you did have buyers come in and lift the stock off lows, and it's actually right back to that 15-16 pivot. So this is obviously the financial stocks have been outperforming and have been a great pocket of leadership in the market. You look at the fundamentals at New. Again, this is a Brazilian fintech. They have more than 100 million customers at the end of Q3, but the bottom line growth, the top line growth, company that really is executing quite well here. So I think it's one to watch. It is, who knew that Warren Buffett likes to look at, growth stocks with big earnings and sales increases. But New Holdings is in the top 10 holdings of Berkshire Hathaway. I think he owns a little more than 100 million shares, and a financial that still looks good here, and a pretty good earnings report and a relative strength line still up near highs. A lot of stocks can't say that right now.
hmm And it's another good example of not making all or nothing decisions after earnings. So if you owned it heading in, you see the kind of open that this had, maybe you do sell part of your position, but see if it can hold those opening lows and start to find support, especially at the 50-day line, which you mentioned. That's where this one came down to, and it was able to find that support.
Yeah, no doubt. Just a good day of support for new, and just a good example, because there's no doubt that people got shaken out today, especially that bought the initial breakout over 15, 16. NU went down to the 14 level, so probably triggered a stop loss for a lot of people, but a good lesson just to keep this one on the watch list, because even though it was volatile, again, buyers did come in and support the stock, and it's still holding near an entry here. And you've got good relative strength and pretty good fundamentals and good growth prospects here as well. Brazil, Argentina, South America, they're difficult. It's almost like investing in China. At least you have Warren Buffett owning a big
Yeah.
piece of this company, and still a good fundamental and technical setup here, it looks like.
Let's talk about team. This is Atlassian in the enterprise software group. Earnings came out a little while ago, Ken. I'm trying to see what day it reacted to the earnings report on 11/1. So before the market really started getting up and going and kicking it up a notch in a big way. But that has helped fuel further gains after that big gap up on earnings. And we're seeing the stock forming the right side of a deep base here. Let's see, it's 48% depth, but it's undeniable the recent strength that this stock has seen.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about this one because typically, when a stock corrects, 48, 50% on the left side, on the one hand, that's good because it serves to shake out a lot of sellers. But we know that technical patterns like this, typically the best breakouts come from, shallower pullbacks. But I'm kind of in the camp that there was just a good shakeout of sellers here. And as the stock has rallied back, it's done so in some pretty good weekly volume. So you can see that helps the stock's accumulation distribution rating of A minus. You got 3 up weeks in a row, and the stock is bumping its head up against that left side high. So, as I say a lot on these SMT videos, that you kind of want to just put this one on the watch list because I think this one does have the chance to still be a good leader in the enterprise software group. But as it approaches that left side high, you're going to watch for maybe a little down drifting handle. Maybe today was the start of it, but we'll see if it can hold above those short-term moving averages and maybe just drift lower in light volume here. That could set the stage for a breakout, but it's going to need a healthy market to break
Mhm.
out. So at the very least, what you have here is just a very strong company fundamentally that looks like it's under some accumulation here. So definitely a name to keep an eye on.
Yes. Okay. And Sherwin-Williams, SHW. This is the newest member of the Dow, and it is still in a buy zone. Let's take a look at the weekly chart. The pattern not showing up on the daily or weekly, but I think we could consider this a little flat base here.
Yeah, and a stock that's listen. It had a negative reaction to earnings a few weeks back. It kind of undercut the 10-week line, and then what did it do? It went back above the 50-day moving average. That's when news broke that it was going to join Nvidia as the two newest Dow Jones components. So that took effect last Friday. So Sherwin-Williams is in the Dow now. I look at this as still in a buy zone here, just retaking the 50-day moving average on the weekly chart. You can see it's a nice test for Sherwin-Williams after that breakout over the 350 level. So I think this one is, it's just a good test of the 10-week line going on here. You don't have the fundamentals like you do at New Holdings or Atlassian, so that's a bit of a yellow flag. But at least the annual earnings estimates, look pretty good, and it's a company that's still, churning out some growth here. So not going to be a fast moving stock, but you get a little dividend here, and you've got some strong price performance in the Dow.
Yeah, and as long as it continues to outperform the S&P, hopefully it won't be like watching paint dry here.
Exactly,
See what
exactly,
I
and
did there?
I like it. I
Huh?
like it a lot, and the relative strength line, as you pointed out here, up near highs. We're seeing a lot of growth stocks in particular with relative strength lines that are really starting to bend downwards. So again, you want to pay attention to stocks holding up with decent looking relative strength lines. That means they're holding their own against the S&P 500. So I think Sherwin-Williams looks reasonably good here.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for today's show. Ken, as always, a pleasure. Thanks so much for your insights today.
My pleasure.
And thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in. That is it from us for today. But we will be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live. Brian Shannon of Alpha Trends will be joining the show, and Justin is going to be hosting. I'm going to be out Friday and Monday. I'll see you back here Tuesday. But of course, you are in great hands with the team. I will be missing out and I will miss you all. But for IBD Live, that's investors.com/IBD Live for all the details on that. The team will see you there. And then we also have you covered with our Friday Stock Market Today video with Mike Webster and Justin Nielsen this week. So they'll see you then. And then I'll see you back here on Tuesday.